Very first story, the Bank of Ghana has eased restrictions that barred people from withdrawing hard currency from their dollar account, saying such account holders can cash the equivalent of $1,000 per transaction. The relaxation of the restrictions comes after a review of the foreign exchange control measures announced in February. Officials, however, insist the measures were never intended to stop the free fall of the cedi.
The measures were introduced in February at a time when the cedi had depreciated by some 7.8% at the end of January, though the decline had persisted through the last quarter of the previous year. Key among the measures was the restriction of over-the-counter forex withdrawals to account holders who could show proof they were traveling outside the country. The central bank, however, says account holders can now withdraw up to $1,000 at a time,
without prejudice to the limit of 10,000 withdrawal per travel and the 10,000 annual transfer without documentation. Over-the-counter cash withdrawal from FCA and FEA will be permitted up to a limit of $1,000 or its equivalent per transaction in foreign currency. The threshold for transfer abroad without initially submitting documentation, this was set in 2007, it was in the guidelines, has been increased from the 2007 level of $25,000 to $50,000 or its equivalent.
Dr. Amwa explained the rationale for the February measures.
The measures were meant to introduce clarity, transparency, and streamline operations of the forex market. We never said it was to arrest the depreciation of the cedi. Unless the structure of the economy changes, unless government sticks to unless there's that we want to call strict adherence to budgetary targets, unless we change the base, export base, unless we change the tax base, therefore reduce the resource gap, these things will keep recurring.
He added that though the cedi continues to depreciate, the rate of depreciation has slowed.
Monthly depreciation declined steadily from the peak of 7.8 in January to 2.7 in May 2014. Now, measures were taken to address the depreciation. They include the raising of the policy rate. I've just spoken about it, to incentivize, to make cedi assets more attractive, number one. Number two, the increasing of the cash reserve ratio to tighten liquidity on the market. Number three, the reduction of the NOP to compel the banks to offload their forex holdings onto the market. These were measures intended for the depreciation of the cedi. Now, the question you may want to ask is, have it been successful? Do you know where the cedi would have been if those measures had not been taken?
The revisions, according to the Bank of Ghana, allow hotels and educational institutions to receive payments from non-residents in foreign currency, which was initially barred. They are, however, required to lodge these proceeds in their foreign exchange accounts.
Now, the Bank of Ghana has challenged claims that its forex measures introduced in February this year have failed to stop the tumbling of the local currency. It actually maintains the measures were never intended to do that, and that other specific tools, such as the policy rate, were rather aimed at halting the decline. The currency had depreciated by 19 Ghana pesos at the time BoG introduced its measures in February, but has since lost almost 60 Ghana pesos on the interbank market. So could it be that even though the bank says the measures were not aimed at shoring up the cedi, they nonetheless worsened its woes? This was a question I put to the head of financial stability at the Bank of Ghana.
are speculation. They have not provided any empirical evidence to support it. I have provided substantive evidence to show that the pace of depreciation is slowing down. So if they have counter evidence, other than you guys were talking about speculation, what we want to stop speculation. This is speculative. What is the proof? Show me the proof that it has hurt it. I've shown you, I've given you the evidence that the pace of depreciation has slowed down from 7%, the peak of 7.8% in January, as at May, it had depreciated in the month of May by 2.7%.